It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
First, introduce you to, welcome back to the program, rather. Dan Perkins is back with us, master storyteller, author of the Brotherhood of the Red Nile trilogy. Dan, how are you, sir? We appreciate it.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. I wanted to have you on because I have been loosely following what's going on with this Brexit, or at this point, I'm worried that it's a non-Brexit Brexit. What can you tell us about this? And isn't this an example of the elites that, govern these countries just not wanting to listen to the will of the people?
You don't need me. You got it right. It's absolutely, you're spot on. I just think that we're seeing two mysteries play out. If you followed the Brexit issue, the vote was during the presidential primaries in the United States. And I remember listening to the analysis of the vote after it actually happened that same day on the BBC. And you could clearly tell that when they were interviewing the common folks in the hinterlands, they were very much in wanting to leave because they saw their country being destroyed. Their heritage, their culture, their language, their laws were being dictated out of Brussels. And already 60% of the laws on the books in England were driven by the European Union. And the British people were afraid, and rightfully so, that they were losing their identity and losing control of their history and their culture. And as a result, they voted, the common folks voted to leave. The night of the election, it reminded me of the night of Donald Trump's election in 2016. They were beside themselves. And it is an example where, as you pointed out, the majority will of the people was thwarted by the elite who decided that the common folks were not smart enough to make the right decision. We have the same thing going on right now in the United States. And it started when Donald Trump was elected, and the idea that the deep state, and we have a much better picture today to what extreme certain people in the government, the deep state, went to try and prevent him from being elected, and then trying to get rid of him after he was elected. And it's another example, and we saw in the last few weeks the scandal at the colleges and universities, where the elites in this country would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy their children's way into a prestigious university. It is another example of the elites deciding they know what's best for us, and they are held to a different standard.
We're talking again with Dan Perkins. You have heard about his books on the program before, the Brotherhood of the Red Nile trilogy. Also, you can see his writings at the Daily Caller, Clash Daily, LifeSet, Newsmax, TheHill.com. Dan, you mentioned the American deep state, or just maybe just the deep state. And we've seen, like you said, we know the depths they're willing to go. We see the players, specific people, I think more, certainly they're not comfortable with it. But, what they put the American people through, what they've put the president through in the wake of his election has been a bunch of really just theatrics. Just it's fake outrage, fake collusion, these fake conspiracies. Is that what's going on across the pond in Parliament as well? I mean, they're acting like this is a really, really difficult thing to figure out how to get, to no longer be a part of the European Union. It seems like they're making it difficult on purpose.
Absolutely. You're spot on, as the English would say. You're correct again. They're trying to say, again, to the common folk, you have no idea how difficult this is going to be. And we're not really, we are not really sure that it's worth going through the process to figure out how to exit. And so they've been for 2 years, now almost 2.5 years, going against the will of the people under a process, under their government that allow the people to speak. And they refuse to accept what the people want to do. So they are, as Hillary says, they are the deplorables. They don't have the right to govern themselves. We have to do that for them. And they're trying to make it, as you said, make it much more complicated than it needs to be. You know, England's been around for hundreds of centuries. I mean, it's not like this was a new country that was just created. And all these countries in Europe have been around for a long, long time. They have the potential to understand, to know how to govern themselves and how to get along with their neighbors. I've heard people say over the weekend, well, what's going to happen to borders? How are you going to prevent people from coming in from the north, dealing with other parts of the British Empire? And I said, we've done it. They did it for centuries.
Yep.
They don't want to. If they want to put a war, they want to put customs in. That's fine. They should be able to do that. But if they know how to separate themselves from this union by simply looking at all the laws that have been put on their books and getting rid of them, it's just like what Mr. Trump did when he came in. He used executive orders, just like Obama used executive orders, to try and move the country along as quickly as possible. It's not that difficult, but they're trying to make it more difficult because they want to prove that the British people are stupid.
So do you have a current update on this? I'm just curious of the global implications. March 29th, right? That was supposed to be the drop-dead date. Is that still the date, or are they just saying, hey, we're going to postpone this, we're not going to Brexit?
There is a drop-dead date of March the 29th. There is no deal in place of how they're going to exit. And theoretically, the 29th of March comes, they're no longer part of the EU, and there's no deal for exiting the EU. So we'll have some difficulty for a while trying to work our way through it item by item. But unless the Parliament, which is considering revoting to allow a new referendum to get the people to, quote, verify what they said the first time was what they want to do, which is a delaying tactic on the part of the elites. Theoretically, they're supposed to leave the European Union on the 29th.
Okay, so that's
with
still...
or without a deal.
Wow. So,
but, as I said, Parliament is considering the possibility of a new general vote so that they want to postpone the 29th in order to have a revote on the ballot issue of leaving. And the belief is that if it goes to a revote, Theresa May is gone.
Is there the kind of rage that we are seeing in France with the yellow vests? Do you think that exists in the UK?
The French are much more passionate people than the people of England. The people of England are much more conservative. I don't know that they'll take to the streets over Brexit. They might. But what I do believe, inherent in your question, is that the British people are getting angry that their elected leaders can't seem to follow their wishes, and that's why they're talking about May being out, and why there's such turmoil within the various parties within the English political structure. A lot of people are angry, but they do it much differently than they do. The yellow vests is really a different issue, but in a sense, it's the people rebelling against the elites who again told them, well, we're going to have this global warming initiative, and you're going to have to pay for it by increased gasoline and fuel prices. And the people said no. The government backed down, but the people are still protesting other things that the government's doing. So the French people feel much more empowered over what they're trying to do with their protests than the British people feel somewhat frustrated that the elites are refusing to do what they want them to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anyone ever doubted that there are essentially puppet masters that believe they can, control things from the top. I mean, that is on display now in so many governments across the globe right now. It's undeniable. And what's at the center of it, Dan, and I would assume you would agree, is that the people that actually have to live under these laws that are being made, or these decisions being made by these powerful people, they're suffering in many results because of these decisions.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why the protest started in France. The fuel taxes that they want to impose to pay for the greening of France were an burden on the part of the average person, and they said enough, and so they decided they're going to fight. I think what's amazing about the Yellow Jackets is how long they've been continuing to fight the fight and not giving up, and the government has become more and more frustrated. The elites are more and more frustrated because they don't understand how the poor people and the ignorant people are doing this to their country. And they never look within and never decide maybe it's something we've done wrong. It's always somebody else.
Yeah, the elites are the problem. That's certainly what I'm getting at.
They are.
Hey, Dan Perkins, I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for spending some time with us this morning.
Anytime. Thank you for calling.
It's always great to have you on. He's the author of the Brotherhood of the Red Nile trilogy, and you need to look for his writings again over at the Daily Caller, ClashDaily.com, LifeSet.com, Newsmax, and TheHill.com.